BP is at the higher end or lower end?
So over the last 2 years, BP has sold $38 billion of assets and put provisions on our balance sheet of over $40 billion. So I think we're provisioned for the future eventualities here. And it's probably not best for me to ever comment about a case that's in court.
Right. What about the Trinidad asset? Are you satisfied with where the Trinidad asset is now? And do you see further investment in Trinidad and Tobago in the near future?
So as we have gone through a program of reducing our portfolio, you can see the importance of Trinidad to BP. So over 400,000 barrels of oil equivalent a day. The minister and we have been meeting about the future. Obviously, we've got plans. We've shot the seismic surveys, which we think will reveal more resources here. So I'm optimistic that there's decades of work here for.
What I was really asking about is Juniper and whether or not you can see Juniper being sanctioned or that you have new fiscal measures in place.
So the competition for capital in any company in any industry is really strong and fierce. And so the changes that have been made in the proposed budget and the finance bill will allow us then to make that leap into Juniper next year. We're going to have to move other things out of our portfolio around the world. So these incentives for us to invest, which will be well over $1 billion project, more than a TCF of gas, is significant. And we've started the early engineering work, and then we'll authorize it sometime next year. Very pleased with the sense of cooperation and understanding of the need to create the incentives to invest, and we've been doing that for many years. Well, I can't comment on the discussions. It's not for me to comment on the discussions of the finance bills that will come forward. But the budget gives us great encouragement. We'll also make some other difficult decisions around the world, though, to put this in.
Sorry, Curtis, I'd love to invite another media house to ask a question if we could.
Sorry, my primary question revolved around the latest development in that ongoing case in New Orleans today. I'm curious as to how 2010, so almost 4 years later, what is BP satisfied with what it has done to help redevelop New Orleans?
I think we have made a tremendous commitment beginning in 2010 to restore the Gulf, clean the beaches, and restore the business and economic life of the Gulf. And we've made huge amounts of commitments on that. We are today in court was a different matter. It was around the trial itself, and I have to say that some of the statements today that BP lied about its activities to cap the well defy common sense. And I think I'll just stop there. I think some of those statements defy common sense. The company was doing everything it could to look at ways to cap the well as best as possible. So I was a bit surprised at some of those statements today. And on I don't believe that BP made a very, very generous settlement to put so much money in plaintiffs' attorneys' pockets rather than the people who are actually damaged economically during the spill. And we have a problem with that, and of course we've contested that. I think that's probably all.
Yeah, I think I would love for us to ask if there are any questions on technology or on the energy sector in Trinidad. What the Minister of Course?
Upstream technologies launched tonight. What impact you see it having on your bottom line, and how soon?
Well, the oil and gas, there's always risk involved with oil and gas. So what we've done is shot the cable surveys of the seabed, which will give us greater resolution in the Columbus Basin. And it's going to take a while with a lot of investment, but I am optimistic it's going to unlock natural gas resources for Trinidad for decades to come.
And just one thing, BP has some cross-border, as I think Dorado and cross-border. BP thinking about developing those reserves?
One thing, Curtis, I've learned is never take a position on cross-border disputes anywhere. So the resources are there someday, but that'll be between the countries to resolve. And of course, if there are those resources there, we'd hopefully participate.
What's BP's biggest challenge in Trinidad and Tobago?
That's a really good question. 400,000 barrels a day It's not capability. It's not people, because it's great people coming through. And I think that with the minister and the collaboration we've had with the government, it's kept what is actually fairly low margin production economic. And as long as that can stay in place, I can see us, the engine, continuing to work for the country and for BP.
Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we'll entertain two more. Okay, ladies first, please. Okay. Right. In terms of improved revenues and getting taxes when BP is able to, get more oil and gas out of it, what kind of projections do you have for increased tax revenue from when BP is able to extract more from the reservoir?
Well, our focus has been over the last 4 years. As I said during the IBC conference, we have not increased on any aspect of the energy sector, be it upstream, midstream, or downstream. What we've done in every successive budget is to progressively relax the fiscal regime and make it more and more competitive, because the early information that we had as far back as 2010 from people like Wood Mackenzie and people like Dr. Van Neers is that Trinidad and Tobago's competitive position had to be improved. So we went about doing that in a very collaborative way with people in the energy sector. I think there's general consensus that the incentives provided in the last budget delivered a month ago will help stimulate more investment. Those incentives speak specifically to people with E&P licenses. It doesn't affect the production sharing contracts that we have, which are sort of ring-fenced and insulated from these things. It will affect BP positively, Repsol, Petrotrin, and certain aspects of EOG under exploration and production license, and anybody who has an E&P license. So the government is really looking at growing the revenue pie. 1 and 2, we're looking at maintaining the level of investment in the country. And the upward was here earlier this year, and he said BP was expanding to $26 billion in this country in the next 5 years. A big chunk of that is going to be Juniper, and then beyond Juniper, there's of course, as we heard today, Angelin, which is the other project beyond Juniper. So it's very positive also for the people of Labrie, because it means that the fabrication yard, which has been relatively dormant now for almost 3 years, will see, once sanctioned, the Juniper project platform. By that I mean the upside and the jacket being fabricated in Labrie, which will create 300 to 400 jobs. So as a country, we need to keep the investment flowing, and we need to always be wary of our attractiveness. As specifically said, they rank projects according to the economic value, the BP, and we have to ensure that our projects are always up there and not the ones that are being knocked off at the bottom. And we compete in the BP universe, we compete with Azerbaijan for capital, we compete with Angola, North Sea, and so on. So we always have to be competitive.
What about deep water? Is BP? Excuse me. BP has two blocks in deep water. Are you looking for gas or oil?
Well, I think what we'd like to find would be oil, but I think the geologists think it is a gas prospective area. But to me, that's for the explorers to find, and we'll see. But I think it's great that those blocks and those resources are being explored for the country. And if I may, Minister, add a footnote to what you said, because you said something very important. BP does work around the world in many, many places, and an observation that I have is in more and more countries, they're becoming very short-term in terms of their thinking, in terms of cycles. And I would just say one of the things that's going to keep Trinidad and Tobago strong is the thinking of a decade ahead and how to make sure the industry competes in a terribly competitive world. And I have to say I'm very impressed with the sort of forethought of how to maintain the competitiveness of Trinidad in a very competitive world. And there's many others who are not thinking long term, and so maybe they want to maximize taxes right away, but then the investment falls out. And if you don't think long term, actually,
goose and the golden egg.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, members of the media. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Minister Dudley. Please, let's allow. Thank you so much. We really did meet our commitment. We'd love to let them get refreshed. Let's get them refreshed and